Kalispera says, I'm Deborah Wynn Smith, the President and CEO of the U.S. Council on Competitiveness and the President of the Global Federation of Competitiveness Councils. And we're absolutely delighted to have this leadership discussion this afternoon on national competitiveness strategies and policies for building innovation-driven growth economies for inclusive prosperity and national security. The theme of this year's Delphi Economic Forum, The Great Transition, is one, of course, that has been addressing all the geopolitical transformations and challenges. But it's very relevant to our discussion today to integrate the profound revolutions that are underway in science and technology, in the new technologies from biotech, digital, nanotechnology, quantum systems, cognitive systems that are transforming our world and also, of course, have profound implications for national security in this very difficult world. It's hard to believe that in less than a year, we have witnessed the acceleration at an unfathomable scale of the application of generative AI systems in businesses, in the service and manufacturing sectors, and of course, in military applications as well. And these revolutions that are converging and colliding are offering tremendous potential for addressing and solving these great global challenges that also have been in the heart of the Delphi Economic Forum discussions for many years. Everything from climate change to the energy transition to carbon neutral systems to the demographics to the integration of rural and urban environments, and the list goes on. Now, many nations are addressing how can they build the innovation capacity and the systems that will enable them to compete and prosper in this incredibly transforming world. Now, there are many factors that impact competitiveness. Traditionally, we define it as a nation's ability to increase their productivity while raising a standard of living for all their citizens. Increasingly, we also address issues around social cohesion, quality of life, and of course, with aging populations and demographics, how are we going to have healthy lifespans that deliver quality of life for aging populations, yes, in the developed world, but also in the developing world as well. Everything from a regulatory environment that is innovation-friendly or hostile, to tax policies, to the cost and availability of energy, and of course, issues around capital, and most important of all, talent. At the end of the day, it's about people and ensuring that our societies develop skilled workforces that can compete and thrive in very intense competitive environments. So national organizations and leadership organizations around the world are addressing these aspects and these problems and these challenges. And the Global Federation of Competitiveness Councils is at the heart of that as we bring together leaders from some 35 countries to work on competitiveness opportunities in our own countries, but how we collaborate together. So today we're going to have a very dynamic discussion with leaders on competitiveness and industry in the private sector. I'm representing the US, but it's really going to be our discussion with our colleagues here from Europe, and I will introduce the panel shortly. In the case of Greece, we've heard, again, throughout the Delphi Economic Forum, since it started in 2016, we've seen this journey of transformation in Greece to see how today Greece has really emerged as one of the most dynamic economies in Europe. So we're delighted that Mr. Simos Anastonopoulos, who is the founder and president of the Private Sector Greek Council on Competitiveness, is with us. Simos and the Delphi Economic Forum hosted the 2022 Global Innovation Summit here in Greece, in Athens, on place-based innovation. And Simos, thank you for your leadership. Delighted to have as well Athina Chatzipetrou, who is the director on the large infrastructure company Alaktor, who has been the dynamic leader of the Hellenic Development Bank, working on all the issues around the small and medium-sized enterprises and entrepreneurship, and has an incredible background in working with major corporations, and also, like me, is in love with archaeology. And very delighted from Bulgaria, industrial member of the GFCC, Mr. Kalin Peshov, who is the chairman of GBS, which is a major regional, but now international construction enterprise dealing with everything from building major power plants and clean energy to retail. And he now has offices in the United States. So welcome to being in the US economy as well. And then our very distinguished guest and panelist who's just joined the Global Federation, the Honorable Lulzim Basha, who is the chairman of the Democratic Party of Albania, has been the mayor of Tirana. You've been ministers. I think you've had every portfolio that you could think of in the government of Albania. And almost. And we hope to see you also returning to a global leadership position as well. So I want to really start and ask each of us to address some of these questions, and then we can get into more detail as we go forward. But I want to start really with the overarching question that we're all going to address, and that is, if you could really share what are the leading competitiveness priorities in your respective countries, and how do you define that in terms of where you are in your journey for delivering a high quality of life and prosperity and security to your citizens? So maybe we will start with you, Simo, since we're here in Greece. And you're being a CEO of a leading pharmaceutical company, and you have so many positions in Greece. And I know it wasn't easy to create the Greek Competitiveness Council, but you've got a tremendous leadership group now of companies and universities and making a big difference here in Greece.
Well, thank you, Deborah. Let me start by saying that I'm very happy to participate in another forum in Delphi. I've been here since the start, since the beginning, and I'm very happy not only to participate in the 9th, but mainly because I see the forum grow, and grow not only in volume, but in importance mainly. So congratulations to Simon Tsomokos and his team. They have created really a fantastic event that promotes not only the competitiveness and the economy of the country, but the country itself. Getting back to competitiveness and to the thing that we know best, perhaps here. Well, the situation on competitiveness is rather complex in Greece. It's complex in every country, but I think here is more complex than anywhere else. We have two issues here. The first is that we need to continue insisting on the structural reforms, because in spite of all the good work that has been done lately, the country continues to lag in competitiveness terms. So other countries are moving faster than we are. There are areas that Greece, like digitization, for example, that we have advanced tremendously, but there are other areas that we keep lagging. Justice is one of them, civil security, and I could name several issues. I will stop there, though. But on the other hand, we should not lose the train of the recent developments of AI, of technology, of innovation, all of these technologies that will definitely define the future of a country and our ability, of course, to adapt in the new environment. Now, I am an engineer, so I think like an engineer. So we need to set our priorities straight. And I believe that we need to build a resilient economy, first of all, as a prerequisite for everything else. So the first things that we need to do in Greece, prioritize, if you may, is to continue on the structural reforms that our country needs, while working on everything else, on adapting the new technology to our needs, harnessing AI, and continue to be competitive, resilient, and looking forward to the future.
Thank you, Simos. And, before I turn to our next guest, I'd like to ask you, was it difficult to create the Private Sector Council on Competitiveness in Greece? And what was really the magic that you all used to bring together this constellation of leaders from the private sector to work with government and to advance this agenda?
Well, of course, you know the history, so you know what we've gone through. It was a real challenge because Greece has created another competitiveness council in the past, and I think it was around 2004, and this didn't go very well because it was under the leadership, eventually under the leadership of the Minister of Development, and it didn't work at all. So when we started, we decided to follow the directive from the European Union that specifically defined that competitiveness councils, to be effective, they need to be private health organizations. And that's what we did. We persuaded 14 major corporations and organizations in Greece. They became the members of the new Council on Competitiveness. Today we have around 50 members. And with the leadership of this board of directors that created the chamber and the new additions, Athena is here, of course, Venetia Kousia, as the executive director, has done tremendous work there. And so today we have become, I wouldn't say a leading force, I would love to say that sometime in the future, but we definitely, I think, guide part of the competitiveness challenge in Greece.
And I would just add that the leadership, Christos Megalou and George Hadjinikolaou of Piraeus Bank have been very active members, and Delphi Economic Forum. I mean, Simeon, as you mentioned on the forum, he's a tremendous innovator just in creating this tremendous
The one thing I would like to close this subject is that we were very lucky because while I was at the American Chamber of Commerce, we connected with the US Council on Competitiveness and yourself. And the guidance from Deborah specifically, but also from the US Chamber of Competitiveness, allowed us to transform the situation in Greece. So a great part was due to you, and we thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Kalin, so you're a leading industrialist. You're regional and you're global. You're at the forefront of just designing and also building this very complex infrastructure from energy and transportation, et cetera. And you're also now tethered to a country that's doing very well economically in terms of your GDP growth and things. What are the really big priorities on competitiveness in Bulgaria from your perspective and as a member of GFCC?
Thank you very much, Deborah, for these questions, and thank you very much for inviting me in your great panel at this great forum. So, speaking about competitiveness in general, we can have a couple of points which are very important. For sure, one is the technology, another one is the legal, and as you mentioned in your introduction, the tax and legal and this frame. And the third point is for sure the human resources and the people who needs to make this competitiveness. So speaking about Bulgaria particularly, in terms of people, what we have, Bulgaria have very well educated people. It has a long-term history about different language school, technical university in terms of medicine, technicians as well. So as a main strength of our country, I would put people and the human resources. As we compare Bulgaria and the Eastern Europe still with the Central Europe, we have in Eastern Europe still more human resources available to get into the competitive, I wouldn't say battle, but business and economy approach. So speaking about the legal and tax situation, Bulgaria is in a very good situation, as for already more than 15 years we have 10% flat tax, which is, I mean, very friendly. It's, of course, from macroeconomic point of view, it's artificial but benefit, but it's there, it's real. So compare the human resources and the tax regime, it's making it quite attractive. In terms of technology, I mean, the country, in order to develop technology, you need a long years of sustainability. So Bulgaria is quite far behind the world leaders, but what is an option here, and what we are doing also as a company, you mentioned our office in DC at the very beginning, that we import and implement the US high technology from the US leader, because the technology really needs years of R&Ds and university and many experience. So we import all this technology, we put them on place in the country so the society can benefit from them. Then the production of technology and the companies, the giant corporation, they can put another funds in R&D, and then also as a company do some profit, but it's not the most important. I mean, this way we gain the increasing of the value for all the society.
And would you say that your tax policy that's very business-friendly and also attracting investment in Bulgaria, are you sort of seen in the EU as the Balkan Ireland?
Thank you. Yeah, it's true due to the fact that these numbers we have, like 10% flat and 5% tax on personal dividends and 0% corporate dividends. It looks like an offshore zone. At the same time, the country is possessing in the European Union, and so it is attractive. And what we see, especially after some of the crisis, after the COVID, and after now the current geopolitical situation in the world, that no more relocation of production is China is available. We see that many Western companies are coming to invest into the country due to the two factors: the low tax regime, and second is the human resources which are available. And in general, the high school is giving quite a good education to the people. So we see many joint venture because between the high technology coming from Europe and US and producing something in the country. Many, for example, spare parts for BMW electrical bicycles, and we see even like 50 to 50% joint venture between Bulgarians entrepreneurs and Western technology giants who are doing production in Bulgaria due to that fact, low taxation and the people and the human. And again, Bulgaria is one of the rarest populated country in Europe, so it's a lot of place to do all this. Thank you.
Well, Lulzim, if there's a change in government in Albania, I think you may be the president, the prime minister, the leadership role. Albania is under a very significant journey to become competitive and to be brought into the European Union. From your perspective as a political leader and your background in supporting and understanding all these different ministerial functions, what are the really critical priorities for Albania to become more competitive, productive, and delivering a higher standard of living for your citizens?
Well, thank you, Deborah. First of all, let me say how glad I am to be here in Delphi and to meet again with you, with colleagues from GFCC, but also with other friends, old friends, new friends. I also want to say that in this slightly more than 24 hours in Delphi, where I'm for the first time, I have met so many Albanians, almost every hour. From the moment I arrived, practically in every restaurant or cafe, at the hotel, here, in the conference, at the support staff of the conference, experts. A lot of them are immigrants who left Albania, a lot of them on foot, across the border to Greece 30 years ago. And a lot of them are the sons and daughters of these immigrants, fully integrated in the Greek society. And it reminds me of an 18-year-old who, in 2005, left by a speedboat to Italy, not knowing the language, and now is the owner and the chief executive officer of a company in the sector of technology that is valued in the hundreds of millions, both in the Italian stock exchange and in the New York Stock Exchange. His name is Ulian Sharka. Is now considered to be one of the most successful pioneers in the field of artificial intelligence. He did not know a word of Italian when he crossed the sea. He worked in restaurants, in bars, in cafes, did not have a chance to graduate, but there he is. And approximately at the same time that he did this, a 16-year-old girl left Albania on a scholarship. First to the East Coast, and now from the West Coast. Her name is Mira Murati. She's the CEO of OpenAI, yes, the owner and the operator of ChatGPT. And what springs to mind is how many potential Mira Muratis or Ulian Sharkas have we failed, and how many are there still to be discovered in Albania? And this is an exciting thought that is very motivating. I think a lot needs to be done in this direction. Albania has currently the fastest growing BPO sector. It's the last newcomer in the sector, but it's the fastest growing sector. Yet there is a lack of coherent policies to support this sector, in particular innovation and technology. And that is the reason, that is one of the motivations behind the formation of the Albanian Council of Competitiveness and Innovation, that I'm very excited you're coming to inaugurate to Tirana next month. So it's the sector coming together, both from an enterprise point of view, from an academic point of view, and from a finance point of view, not government at this stage, not politicians at this stage, who want to explore ways in which this sector can grow. That success stories like that of Ulyan Sharka and Mira Murati, not because of, but in spite of governments in Albania, can be replicated and multiplied, but also with some form of government support. And the first thing that springs to mind is the need for professional training. Some steps are being taken by the Albanian American Development Foundation. Together with TUMO, they have created the first center where about 1,000 young people are now engaged in technology and AI, but it's not sufficient. Investing in our youth, investing in professional education is a top priority. For me, for the Democratic Party, we are now putting together a program, an offer. Parliamentary elections will be next year. This is not sufficient, however. Albania has come a long way, but when I hear Simos talk about the need for structural reform in Greece and singling it out, well, Greece is far ahead in so many aspects. To mention but one, the judiciary. Having an independent judiciary is crucial to competitivity and to business security. And this is something that we have just started. The judicial reform in Albania is about 8 years old. It is, together with the transition from an isolated communist regime to an open country, to an open democracy. There's been a bill to pay, in particular in establishing the right balance and independence of the judiciary and the fight against corruption and an end to impunity. This has just started now. The judicial reform strongly supported by the EU and the US. But it is adamant that this judicial reform goes on. And this is one of our first commitments. The second aspect or structural reform that needs to take place is that of property titles, and property security is crucial for foreign investors. Now we know Greek investors have been there from the very beginning, Italian investors as well, and they have done a tremendous job, not just investing, but bringing their skills and know-how, and also flagging a certain degree of security and bringing Albania to the map of investments for the rest of the Europeans. But now it's time to take another step forward and offer full property security, a functioning judiciary, well-trained, through professional training workforce. It's a very young force, with huge potential. These are the priorities. This is what we're looking towards. And also going back to our flat tax, to our 10% flat tax, like we had it before Bulgaria. The current socialist government has increased it by 50%. Now when you talk to the Dutch, they say, oh, it's still 15%. It's 50% bigger than it was. We're not competitive compared to Bulgaria. We're not competitive to Serbia, to Kosovo, to Montenegro, North Macedonia. We're not competitive. So bringing back the flat tax at 9% is one of our political commitments, but also improving tax transparency. One thing I have to say, not only does flat tax work in terms of creating a better and more predictable climate for investors, it also works for government revenue. It fights informality.
Yeah, it fights
and we saw government revenue shooting up by about 21% once the flat tax was introduced. And one of my commitments is to reintroduce flat tax for the sake of development, for the sake of a better business climate, but also for the sake of social cohesion that is served by a bigger and more transparent revenue and revenue allocation by the government.
Thank you, Lulzim. And I think we're all very excited about the new Albanian Council on Competitiveness. And I have to say that many members in the U.S. Council on Competitiveness are eager to come as well. So we'll bring a nice delegation in May. Athena, you, as I said, have worked for major corporations from Coca-Cola and J&J and so the large global enterprises. But at the Hellenic Development Bank, you played such a critical role in the capital access to the small and medium-sized enterprises, to entrepreneurship, and had to make a lot of investment decisions on what to deploy for building this economy in Greece. Share with us, from that capital perspective as a banker, but as a development banker, what really you see as the critical competitiveness priorities in Greece and maybe the region.
Thank you very much, Deborah, on this opportunity to being among very important players of the neighborhood, let's say, not only Greece. From where I come from, I've always had an eye on how US was working. I was very lucky starting my career in very well-known multinational companies, and I've heard first time the word leadership in Emory University while working for Coca-Cola. Now, what is working for Greece and what has worked in Hellenic Development Bank was that we are pretty good when it comes to crisis. But we are kind of weak when it comes to sustaining changes and reforms. Now, going back to our strength, it was important, and this was the reform that happened to Greece, not only in HDB, but also in the country overall, was the disruption that we had and the differentiation in all our lives in digital. So digital reforms were massive. Our country has changed, the way we work has changed, the way we live has changed in Greece, and this had an effect everywhere. When it comes to the needs that we had at the time, it was, let's say, a double-sided bet. We had to build capacity, internal capacity, and at the same time, making reforms and building financial programs and helping the Greek economy. The innovation is not, of course, on the financial engineering. It's not much innovative when it comes to how you design a loan. What it can be innovative, though, is not what to do, because what to do exists. What to do can be copied. I'm very well trained on the global approach, global, let's say, concept in local application. What was important is the how-to, and the how-to was embracing technology and using AI in a way that could transform completely the way we worked and the way we could support the Greek economy. That is the important, and that should be sustained. And if I may say, I believe that AI will make a very drastic, a very sharp disruption to our leadership style, and I want to share with you how. Now, we all recall that at some point in our history, probably with the advent of language, leadership acumen transitioned from physical to cognitive skills, putting a premium to cognitive skills, putting a premium on intelligence and expertise at the expense of force and strength. Isn't that right? We remember that in the past, the well built up and the warrior was the one that was winning. Now, AI, disrupting our current leadership model and puts clear emphasis on personality traits, and this is what will count, on curiosity, on extroversion, on competitiveness, on adaptability, on readiness to respond to opportunities as well as threats, and also on a pivotal vision. So vision is not anymore the way we used to recall it. At the same time, what is important, and what as I've mentioned as weakness, is the engagement. Because what we need to understand, and we sometimes miss, is that the leader ability is to focus on the signals and not to the noise. And this is what we should try to do in many cases, not only policy making, but also in our lives.
So all of you have addressed in your national priorities, and each, of course, is different, but there are similarities, the incredible transformations that are underway in not just how people are educated, but how they're learning, how they're developing the critical judgment skills, all the things that enable a young Albanian woman to come and be, you know, the CEO of generative AI. And we know in the United States, there's so many people, first generation people from Greece that are at the top levels of corporations, and similarly from Bulgaria. And I have to say that years ago in my work in the US government at the National Science Foundation, I came to Bulgaria and worked with the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences. You have one of the oldest, most prestigious academies of sciences, and I was looking at your website in preparation for this panel, and everything that you're focused on is, you know, just at the cutting edge and really producing major innovation. So let's talk a little bit on competitiveness strategy and the leadership roles you all play. How are we going to transform our educational system? Because, I mean, I'll start with US universities. You know, tremendous research linked to our private sector, our national labs, but in their organizational structure, they're very much like a 14th, 15th century European university. Stovepipes, faculties, they don't like to collaborate. You know, they're very tenured, they're very non-innovative. So what are some things going on in your respective countries on this whole challenge of, I don't want to say higher education, but creating the environment for these young, incredible people to emerge and be leaders? And I want to ask, you know, Simos, you and Athena maybe to start on this, because your Department of Defense has just announced a major new research and development collaboration in dual-use technologies. And that's going to be very interesting to see how that's integrated into your educational system here in Greece. I don't know which one of you wants to start on that, but...
Well,
what I can tell you is that the idea started something more than a year when we visited Israel. Because the Innovation Authority in Israel is the one that works very close with the defense. Actually, the entity that supports innovation in the army is called InnoFence, stands for Innovation and Defense. Very dynamic. We were in some meetings, let's say, seeing and experiencing robotics and from bio disruption to technology and communication. That was, of course, before all this kind of difficult situation that is now happening in the area. What is critical is to understand that the army is a facilitator, is the catalyst. In Israel, the army procures and asks the Innovation Authority for different challenges, which is something that we saw as an opportunity, which is something that with the human capital that we have in Greece, and we may have also, we may add in Greece, we could also thrive in this direction. It's a niche market. It's something that can be, let's say, used as a hub. Greece can be used as a hub. I believe that with cooperation of specific faculties of the universities, among which, of course, is engineering, but also finance and technology departments, this can be very unique. Huh? Agree?
I agree, of course. Well, there were two things in your question. There are bad news and there are good news. I think you chose to address the good news there because the bill on defense innovation is really a development for the country. There was a long-standing distortion there that did not allow the Greek army forces to take advantage of the innovation of the technology created in Greece. And the bill comes to rectify the situation. The bad news is that our universities need huge reform. You're standing on the board of directors of DIRI, so I'm sure you know the whole situation about the education system in Greece. What we have is a situation that needs to change, and needs to change now. The government is doing a certain definite move there to allow foreign universities to be established in Greece. You know that we have the limitation from our constitution. this could not be resolved. So there is a bypass nowadays that will probably provide a solution to this problem. And why is this a problem? Because for many years, the universities were not allowed to cooperate with the industry. And this is the major problem. If you cannot bring together business and education, academia, then you cannot create innovation, you cannot have patents, and so on. Greek professors in Greek universities are very capable. They are among the first in Europe on writing papers. Patents, 0. We are the last. Which means that there is no product here, or there is no a method to go along with the new business growth model that we are all talking about. Extroversion, innovation, and manufacturing. So we need first to address the education situation, bring together the industry with academia, bring new talent into the market, and we can move from there. Now the defense, again, on a brilliant move. Nowadays, they bypassed all of that. They are creating an ecosystem so that they can rely there. They can ask for innovative things from this organization. If they agree, they move forward. If they don't agree, they turn the plan back so that it can be re-innovated, if you like. And eventually, we can have a whole ecosystem that is based on defense innovation. Israel is the most excellent example. From 0, nowadays it becomes one of the growth drivers of Israel. And I'm not talking only about the defense sector that is really important for a country, like Greece also, but I'm talking about extroversion, I'm talking about innovation, I'm talking about bringing money into the country and really be a power in the field.
So I've been given the sign that we don't have too much more time, but I want to give both Kalin and Lulzim an opportunity to comment on this topic and add anything else, but I want each of you to be thinking what will be your last comment on what would really be your, if you were, I have to say, what would be the right thing? We can't just say queen or king of your countries, but if you could do the magic wand, here we are in Delphi, you know, go see your oracle. What would you want to predict for when we come next year to Delphi Economic Forum? What progress will we have made? So, Kalin.
Yeah, first just a quick jump in the education. Actually, Bulgaria has a little bit stopped back in the education from the 90s to 2020 after the communist regime fell. But for the last 5 years, we have a lot of exchange between business, Western University, Bulgarian University, for example, our company, many industry. We interact with all the university. We interact with Western University. I'm a member of Texas Christian University. They are a member of our company. We go together with the university. So it's a very good point, and the level at the moment is really high. And I like very much what you say just a couple of minutes ago. It's not only about university and teaching, it's about learning and also learning how to live. It's a good point, not only in Bulgaria, but all over the Balkans. The people love working. I mean, it's true for Albania. We have Albanian people in our company. We love working with them. They love, we have also Balkans, Greek, Turkish people also in the whole day. They love working. It's the attitude at the Balkans is positive. So after the learning, they start working, which we have this benefit against, not against, but before the Central Europe, where there is a second generation living, they see their parents in the social service securities, which we don't have in our country. So we love working, and everybody is on that page. So I think that's the main benefit in our region.
Thank you. Maybe I'll ask you, Lulzim, to add in your highest priority in this comment as well on education. And I know University of Tirana is quite special in other institutions, but...
You know, there is a wing in my party that believes that the best service the government can do to industry, to people in general, is to get out of their way. In their ideal world, there is no government. But I believe that when it comes to professional education, education as a whole and professional education in particular, it's a time to lead. It's a time for the government to lead. And definitely a time for the next government to lead. And what I mean by that is not simply bringing together the triangle of academia, industry, and finance, but being part of that triangle, promoting a new culture, a new approach where universities are not isolated from the economic reality, but are a dynamic part of that economic reality. And for that to be the case, not only in Albania, but also in other countries, the government has to play a robust role, in particular in Albania, at least for the startup of this new culture for the Albanian universities to truly be part of that triangle and contribute in close concert with the business sector, with the entrepreneurs of Albania. The government has to inject leadership and finance. And that is what I'm committed to, that is what our team is committed to. We believe that Albania will reap the benefits of such an approach. Maybe May next year will be too early, because that is about when we have our parliamentary elections, but I'm sure at some point, not too late, we will be back in Delphi, and I'm optimistic that we will discuss the benefits of such an approach.
And so the role of government's critical, the role of private sector, academia, our civil society. Competitiveness is a systems integration challenge. There's no silver bullet. And I want to thank everyone on our great panel, but also mention that in November 2024, the GFCC will be in Belfast for our 2024 Global Innovation Summit. The theme is on place-making innovation, and we're also going to have a very interesting site visit to what's happening in Birmingham. Birmingham was the heart of the Industrial Revolution. It had its trajectory, and now it's not only rebirth, it is actually becoming the epicenter for mobility, the batteries, everything converging. So we're going to have a trip to Birmingham as well as being in Belfast. So I hope you all will come and join us.
Well,
We will.
I cannot be king, definitely. I will not even be prime minister at the time. But I do see our friend Lulzim Basha become prime minister. So one thing I wish for one of the next panels is that we have the same composition of the panel with Mr. Basha being here as prime minister of Albania. And I really wish you that.
Thank you. We'll all be in Albania for the council. Thank you.